Hi, welcome to the Gastroenteritis Blues. My name is Steve Whitman, joined as always by my friends Emily Cannell and Dan Volpone. I ask you, Emily, what's your favorite kind of salad?
Like, do you mean like pasta, chicken, egg, or like,
No.
do you mean like what do I like
salad.
in a lettuce salad?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I have two. Can I have two? I really like the strawberry one that's at Panera in the summer. The poppy seed one. Then there's also one at Salad Works, the fine American dining establishment that has these like candied walnuts in it. I forget what it's called, but it's got that and chicken and like blue cheese and cranberries. And I used to get it all the time from the Salad Works in Liberty Place when I worked downtown. So those would be like my two favorite salads.
Are you a you pick two person at Panera?
Yeah, I would never just get the full salad because I really like sandwiches a lot. Sure. I normally get the turkey. No, is it turkey? No, it's chicken. The chicken panini with the onion and cheese. That thing, it's good. Right.
And Dan, fair and balanced. What's your favorite salad dressing?
You see, I'm so picky about everything. Like, I don't even usually like a dressing. Like, I'll do like a little like lemon lime on it, or like or like sometimes if they have something a little sweeter, like a apple cider kind of thing, like a balsamic-y kind of.
Love balsamic.
Yeah,
balsamic anything.
Stuff like
glaze.
That.
Love balsamic.
Yeah, balsamic glaze is great. Yeah,
good night.
Balsamic glaze on like a pizza with other, like sweet toppings. Like, there's this place near my house, my parents' house, called Panache, and they have like this pizza that's like, I think it's like steak and pear with a balsamic glaze. It's delicious with like some arugula. That's a good. This is way off topic from the question, but yeah, balsamic is good stuff.
The combination of steak, balsamic, pear or peach, ricotta, that kind of thing is a real winner.
I'm really not a ricotta guy, though, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's a little too like it's too weird texture for me. Like, I don't like I want like a mozzarella, a provolone, like just a normal like stringy kind of cheese.
Are we talking just on pizza or like in general?
In general, I'm really not a ricotta guy.
No, I'm a fan of. You know what? While we're on the topic, and we can wrap up the podcast soon. I love a lemon ricotta pancake.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Emily's. You've never had those?
No.
We have them at sometimes special at the diner or at the breakfast place I work at.
Not Dave's.
No, I don't work there anymore.
Dave's is out. Dave's is
canceled. No, I don't.
Where do you work now?
I work at this place called MJ's. It's in Berwyn.
Oh, I've heard of this.
I'm gonna figure out how far this is for me, and then I'm gonna come.
I won't be there until September. I have all of August.
Well, I would go in September and order the lemon ricotta pancakes.
Well, I'll let you know when they're on
force
special.
Feed them down Dan's throat because I love a lemon ricotta pancake.
Well, I will eat them, but only if you force feed them.
Okay, that's fine. That's what I plan on doing. All right, listen, we've got a lot to get to. By that, I mean almost nothing. This week, James Harden actually signed his contract and that the team announced it. I don't know if there's anything to say about this, but there were quotes about it. Harden said, I really want to win. I'm working out this year. New year, new me. I don't know. Doc Rivers says I'm excited. Daryl Morey says I'm excited. Hooray. Any thoughts on the contract that has now actually been signed and announced by the team? Anything?
I'm a bit relieved. Like,
sure.
I've been saying it was, the fact that it was lingering, like I wasn't thinking about it every day or anything. I mean, I don't even think about the Sixers all the time like I do during the season. I try to give myself a mental break. But like when we would do the podcast every week and it still wasn't signed, it was kind of like, yeah, I would feel a little better if it was signed, to be honest. Like, I'm not worried per se, but it doesn't feel fantastic that it's not official. So I'm glad it's official. There's definitely a sense of security there that it is. I know I think it was Noah Levick from NBC Sports, had a very good piece on Harden and how he's worked with Cassell and with Spencer Rivers. And then Spencer Rivers had the comment that Maxey has kind of, this isn't, I don't remember the exact quote, but he's kind of like re-energized Harden, which is great to hear because, there's the two accounts on Twitter. It's like Tristan and something else that are just like constantly finding these random Harden highlights somewhere and tweeting them out. I don't know if these accounts know Monbear5 at all, but these are, people that are tweeting out basically, there's not like highlights. It's not like workout highlights like we get from a lot of guys. It's just him doing like non-basketball workouts a lot of times. Some of them are basketball, but a lot of them are just like him working on his hamstring. And that somehow makes it out, which is, I guess, it's good to see. We knew it was happening, but I guess it's nice to, see the work being put in of him, continuing to work on his body earlier in the summer and making sure he comes back in better shape. So, if Maxey is helping with that, and if that's something that's going to be, he's going to come into the season with new energy, then I think that's awesome. And that would be huge. But I'm like, the main emotion is just relief that his signing happened.
Yeah, there's a lot of Harden propaganda, him working out. You're right. There are these two sort of faceless accounts that are floating around that I feel like Francis is retweeting a lot, and that's why I end up seeing them. But yeah, he's working out. He's making every shot in the workouts, and he's working on his legs a lot. He looks svelte. And I'm buying it all. I don't care. I buy it. I think
I drafted him in the top 100. I'm all in.
You drafted him in the top 100. Excellent. Right under the wire. Yeah, Emily, any thoughts on Harden officially being announced with this contract and some of the content here that we're seeing?
In regards to him signing, I guess I'm glad it got done. I never really doubted that it would get done. And it's basically what we had been hearing and all thought. There was no like big surprise or anything like that. So like, great. I'm glad we can move on now. In terms of like him working out and looking like he's actually in shape and ready to play basketball, that all sounds great. Yeah, I'm just happy then hoping that we get the Harden that we wanted and we saw in like the first couple games last year versus like really playoff Harden. I mean, this is what happens every year. We get really excited, then we look stupid. So let's like hope we're here for this is turning over a new leaf. But like, I mean, we'll see.
The whole look stupid thing is so funny because like obviously it's true. But the one year I didn't buy in on the Sixers was like the year where we lost to the Hawks. Like that was the 1 year out of the 3 years we've been doing the podcast, and really my whole life, where I was like, I'm really not in on the Sixers this year. Like obviously I watched every game, but I was like, I don't think they're going to be that good. And they got the 1 seed, they stunk in the playoffs, and it's like ultimately like I was like kind of right in the end, like they were not that good, and I still felt so stupid. I was like, I went to 2 games in that Hawks series. They lost them both. Like we game 5 was one of the worst things I've ever seen. We were all there. Like, yeah, I felt stupid. I spent my money on this team. Like I didn't feel smart about it.
Well, and also, even if they weren't that good, they should have been in the Eastern Conference Finals that year. Like, even with not being that good, they went to 7 with the Hawks and fucking should have won that series asleep. Like, that Hawks team was not very good. Like, what were they doing? Like,
I mean, and they were playing well. They were overachieving. They took a couple games from the Bucks, but like, this is the same Hawks team that was the 8th seed this year.
Yeah, no, that like you were right about that Sixers team, and still, like an absolute act of God happened for them to not be in the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since Al Iverson. Like that was a nightmare.
Do you ever are you ever like secretly happy that you were at that game?
In a perverse way, yeah, because
it's one of like the worst and just like most hilarious memories of my life. Just like rioting and
well, it's like we have like a Philadelphia sports Purple Heart in a way, we were at the Hawks.
Like I've been to awful Philly sports games before. Like I was at like 2011 when the Phillies lost to the Cardinals and Howard tore his Achilles, right? Like that was just sad. It was like this was a really good team that I thought could have won. And like, I was at that game. Howard got hurt. That was just really, really sad. Whereas like when this game ended, it was horrible. I felt terrible, but like it was hilarious. Like at the same time, it was like this was so bad. Like I have to laugh. Like I was laughing at Emily because Emily was screaming leaving the stadium, just so mad. And like I wasn't, it wasn't sadness. It was like anger and like I was like incredulous at what we just saw.
Not in control of my emotions.
We were.
Emily was so mad at that corgi.
Will with the corgi. We were watching this happen, and we'll move off of this because why would we make people listen to this? But
it was like 2 years ago.
We were.
Everyone still thinks about it though. This is
as it was slipping away. I remember sitting next to you guys, being like, "Hang on, wait, are they going to lose this game? Like, is this actually?"
Well, as soon as it got to like 8, you knew it was over.
Well, it got to like 11, and I see Joel stand up and go back in the fourth quarter, and I was like, "Oh my god! It's like they're putting him back in the game. We have to do this." Horrible. Okay, the NBA is investigating the Sixers. Woj tweeted, "The NBA has opened an investigation." Like, how silly. Into the Sixers for possible tampering and early contact centered on the franchise's summer free agency class of James Harden, PJ Tucker, and Danuel House. The Sixers have begun cooperating with the league on the probe. The NBA is expected to pursue the circumstances surrounding Harden declining $47 million option to sign a 1+1 deal that cut his salary to $33 million and gave the team more flexibility to sign Tucker and House. Some have wondered whether if another deal was already in place for the future, which is against the CBA rules. We've talked about the possibility of this before because Zach Lowe and others have been crying about this possibly happening.
Zach Lowe is crying about everything all the time.
So a few things on this. One, there's no way the Sixers have like a max deal for next year signed with James Harden. If they do, Daryl Morey should like hand in his GM card. You don't sign a future max deal with a then 35-year-old James Harden. Like, that's not the way you should do anything. Like, is this maybe a show of faith that like the Sixers would like to make good on James Harden and keep him a Sixer for years to come? Yeah, maybe, but that's not against the rules, I don't think. Literally every team that signs anyone tampers. Like, this is, everybody does this stuff. Like, the Sixers should tamper, and like in years past they haven't tampered, and like this is just the game. This is what everybody does. What this means is that like Miami with PJ Tucker cried about it and like went to the NBA and complained. I don't know if something's going to happen with this. Are they going to lose a second round pick? Like, I guess I don't really care that much about like the ramifications of this. Like, I don't think anything serious is going to come of this. I more find it funny and annoying, but that's all I really feel about it. Emily, any thoughts on this? They're calling it an investigation. Just tremendous. Emily, any thoughts?
I'm more like the use of the term probe. Like they're
aliens.
Yeah, it's funny. I think maybe they'll lose their second round pick just to like, I feel like it's the kind of thing like if someone whines enough, then the NBA has to look into it and then they're like, oh fine, just like give us your second round pick. Like, fine, I don't really care. I think the thing that they probably are like more interested in is the Harden like pay cut, so to speak. I think that's the more interesting part than like the House and Tucker signings, because like that shit happens all the time. Like free agency starts and you get 12 Woj tweets. Like clearly everyone's tampering. But that would be the way harder one to prove.
Right.
And like it's not the first time that that's ever happened. Like, and I mean in other sports, like Tom Brady takes like redoes his deals and like moves them around to like make room for other players because he likes winning. Like that's basically what James Harden is saying at this point. What is as terrible as it is, like what is $12 million to James Harden?
if it means he could maybe win a ring. Like, I think that he probably wants that more than $12 million at this point. I would prefer $12 million, but that's just me. And I don't he can make whatever decisions he wants. So I think something will come of the like Tucker House situation, like those signings. And if it's a second round pick, fine. But I don't think they'll be able to find any evidence in like what would be probably the bigger quote unquote crime, which would be like the James Harden piece. I don't think they're going to be able to figure out anything or find anything there. So
I mean, there's like the Michael Rubin thing, but like Michael Rubin doesn't work for the team anymore. And unless you're like going into James Harden's, Bank of America account and like looking for a wire from Michael Rubin, like I don't exactly know what you can do because
But is that against the rules even? Like,
well,
why can't Michael Rubin give James Harden money?
Right. If they're just pals and they wear the same white outfits, then why can't he? I don't know. It's confusing. Dan, any more thoughts that you haven't already shared on this one?
Well, I guess the one thing I would just say is that so Brian Toporek, newest Liberty baller, I believe newest.
Right. Yes.
I think newest also. Wrote I thought a very informative piece for the site, and I enjoyed it. I thought it helped give me some context here. And my two big takeaways from what he wrote were one, basically the whole like if the Sixers were dumb enough to like leave like digital evidence of them like agreeing with Harden, like, oh, we're gonna sign you to a max next year, like. That's basically happened before in like the early 2000s with the Timberwolves and Joe Smith, and the Timberwolves lost like 5 straight first round picks for it. Like it was like the full David Stern like punishment, like as much as he could punish them for it. So I don't think the Sixers did that. I would like to think Daryl was careful enough to not do anything that dumb, considering how awful the punishment for that is. And then my other takeaway was he noted, a few teams lost second round picks last year, but they were all from sign-in trades that were leaked too early. None of them were from just signings themselves that were leaked too early. And so, because of that, if I had to guess, I would say that probably nothing happens with the Sixers. And they're probably investigating because some other team complained, or Zach Lowe called in a favor to have his anti-Sixers agenda furthered by the league office. But I don't think that there's really anything to it. If I had to guess, obviously we'll see. But based on what he wrote, which I thought was really good context, and if you're listening and you're looking to learn some more about this, I would recommend giving it a read. I would imagine there's not a lot here.
So quickly, you mentioned Zach Lowe, and you brought up either last pod or 2 pods ago about how the Jokic thing during the year, about how he was going to put Jokic on first team All-NBA as a forward and sort
when
of
Embiid was
apocryphal,
leading
right?
the
When
MVP
Embiid
race.
was leading, yeah.
And
so
then once Jokic took the lead, it was nope, we can only have one.
So, and then saying that he wonders if they're going to investigate the Sixers for this stuff. So I definitely, more than you, like Zach Lowe. I think he does a good job. I think I enjoy his pod.
He's
generally.
A good writer.
Yeah.
He's so boring.
I have a bone to pick with him. I have a bone to pick with Wendy, who I do love as a meme, even though I don't listen to his podcast, so I guess I'm sort of talking out my ass here. Miles Bridges was in line for a max contract this summer, and almost surely beat his wife, and is now sort of facing extremely serious charges. And everybody in the national media, or almost everybody, including Zach, who I've noticed specifically, just sort of calls it the Miles Bridges situation and then moves on to the next topic. And I think that's shitty. And I think that he could spare 5 minutes to like actually talk about what's going on there with like a massive free agent and the victim in this case, instead of just saying like Charlotte, who knows what's going to happen there because of the Miles Bridges situation. Like, I think it's bad. Like, I think that he could actually, spend a few minutes talking about how there's this person, this human being who was affected by this surefire max contract guy who like, oh, no, and it just doesn't exist, because there's this thing that makes us uncomfortable. Yeah, of course. There's a child, like, yeah. So like, I don't know. I think it's just sort of choosing to like conveniently not discuss it because it's uncomfortable or because, you want to do the, whatever, innocent until proven guilty thing. Like, I think it's sort of a cop out and whatever. So I think that's disappointing. And I think that he could spare 5 minutes to be like, there's one free agent who we talked about like a ton before this, and now we've just sort of omitted him for a while. So anyway, that's my bone to pick. All right. Dan, you mentioned the article from Noah Levick about Maxey and Sam Cassell and about, what's his name? Doc's son.
Spencer Rivers.
Yes, everybody loves Maxey. Nobody has ever loved anyone more than Maxey than the city of Philadelphia loves him. So what's his deal? He wakes up, he's doing the Jimmy Butler thing, which we're all hypocrites with him because we love it when Maxey does it and we think it's lame when Jimmy Butler does it.
Yeah, but you know what? I think it's different because when Maxey does it, it feels less arrogant when Maxey does it. It's like it gets covered, but it's always like someone else talking about what he does. Like someone else saying like, wow, Maxey's putting in all this work. Maxey's getting up at this hour. Maxey's doing this, as opposed to like Jimmy Butler like calling Rachel Nichols to be true. Like I just beat the starters with the third team in practice. Like I just I was dribbling the ball at 3:30 in the morning in the bubble.
There's such different personalities. No, Maxey is like incredibly humble and endearing, and Jimmy is incredible, but like the opposite, like pure bravado. And so Maxey's working really hard, and Harden is teaching him how to draw fouls, and he, like you said, he's rejuvenating Harden. Sam Cassell, just every quote from Sam Cassell makes people want him to be the head coach instead of Doc. Even Doc's own son, people want him to be the head coach instead of Doc. There's that, and then there was a brief video from one of those accounts we were talking about where the team was out to a team dinner, which I can't remember like an off-season team dinner like this, where B-Ball Paul and James Harden and Joel were out at a team dinner, and there was like TMZ footage of it. So any additional thoughts on this stuff, Emily?
My favorite part about the Maxey / Sam Cassell article was when Sam Cassell was like, yeah, of course, like he's like, every player I work with gets good. Like it was like, yeah, he's putting in a lot of work, but really like I'm the greatest coach and like everyone I work with is good. So like, why are you surprised? I was like, I love that confidence. I love that.
It's great.
And yeah, I thought he's like, I love this kid. He's like my son. All these players are my sons. It's just very sweet. And I will be sad when inevitably Sam Cassell goes and head coaches somewhere and he is not on our bench anymore, but maybe he'll just stay here and they'll fire Doc at some point. That'd be fine. And the team dinner was fun. Like you said, this never happened. It seems like they were all in New York. I think it was a steakhouse in New York. So I don't know if guys were working out together or what, but I thought it was really cool that it wasn't just like Harden and Bede and like PJ Tucker, like bigger name guys like Bassey. And I think Jaden Springer were there, like these young guys that, aren't getting a ton of minutes were there with people like James Harden. So I think that's really cool. Also interesting that it seemed like James Harden drives his own car.
He was driving himself, yes.
But Joel had a driver. So.
Yes. And they asked Joel who paid.
Drive now, correct?
Yeah, he does.
He recently got his license.
Yes.
I was really Joel who paid, and Joel laughed and said not me.
I was really hoping that like James Harden would drive and then like BUL Paul would get in the back seat, like he had to like drop him at his hotel on the way home, like when you like got to ride from your friend. I thought that would have been really cute, but it didn't look like it happened. It looked like they were waiting for Uber. So it's like, hey, Paul, you want to ride to the Marriott on my way to the Plaza, the Ritz, or wherever? James, I guess he probably still has an apartment in New York.
Dan, any thoughts on these?
No, I mean, I like that the team is spending time with each other this summer and no one is, turning their cell phone off. Yeah, I mean, I thought, like I mentioned, I brought it up earlier. I thought the article was really good. The only thing I would say, I guess I took the Sam Cassell comment a little less endearingly. I mean, whatever, who doesn't really matter, who cares? But it's like, I don't know, Maxey's like everything we hear is like Maxey's like the hardest working guy, like up at all hours working on basketball. So it's like, I don't know, like unless Sam Cassell's also up at like 4 a.m. in the gym with Maxey, like I don't know, maybe give the guy a little more like credit than just like, oh, everyone I work with does this. Like he's putting an insane amount of work in like without you too. So I don't think it's just you. But yeah,
and it's like Sam, didn't you also cross over with Ben?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure Sam Cassell helps him a lot. Don't get me wrong, but like, I don't know. Like, I think the first person I would credit Maxey's success to is Maxey, and then like in a very distant second, maybe Sam Cassell and Spencer Rivers, but besides that, I thought it was a good article, as all of the Maxey articles tend to be. I think they're, he's somewhat interesting without trying to be, in that like he's just kind of like a wholesome guy, like a easily likable guy. I don't think he's purposely trying to be likable. I think it's just how he is. Like, I don't think he's putting on a facade to like help his brand. I think he's just this way. And he's so young too. He's still one of the youngest players on the team. He's 21 still.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, he's really young. He's the age of someone who should be entering their senior year in college. And so just to see, the work he puts in and how he does everything with a smile on his face is, I think, just kind of relatable for everyone. And to see someone, that young, having it, seemingly so figured out is even more impressive. But yeah, I'm enjoying a lot of the offseason news for the Sixers. I've said this before. I hope there's another move there. I don't think that. Well, I like their pickups. I think they're deeper than before. They're a better team for sure. I just don't think that anything they did really constitutes a major move. I think Tucker will really help. I think, as a rebounder, as a defender, but for being a finished product, I'm just not sure they are. And we know that Daryl is, definitely liable to make an in-season move, even a pretty big one. He's not afraid to do it. He's not afraid of what that means for team chemistry going to the playoffs, things like that. He tends to be pretty aggressive on things like that anyway. But no, I'm looking forward to it because like we've said, I mean, I think we all agree that the biggest thing for the Sixers offseason right now is having Harden get back to his old self, or at least as close as possible, and getting healthy. So I'm happy he's putting the work in. I'm happy he's working on his hamstring. So, he's talked about, I think it was the Haynes article that promoted his wine, where he talked about, how his hamstring is feeling better than it was in the playoffs, and it had been since the injury. So I guess I'm pretty cautiously optimistic leaving this offseason, and all of this, like team culture, player profile type pieces. They just kind of make it more fun, like I think we all want the team to be likable. I think I've been the one who cares the least about that, in terms of like, I was the one who said, yeah, like I'd trade Tobias and Matisse for Kyrie. Sure. Like, give me the best players on the team. Right. Like I might care the least about that, but I still care about that. Right. Like I couldn't stand Ben. Like everyone knew this, like that obviously affected my enjoyment of the team. I want to like the guys on the team. I want, especially the guys that everyone else likes. Like if we could all agree, like, oh, like Kyrie's going to be here and he'll help us, but like we don't really like him, I could handle that. versus like if everyone's like, I love this guy, and I'm like, oh. So I'm definitely finding the guys on this team to be likable, and it definitely helps get you excited for the season.
We're going to take a little break. When we come back, one more topic, and then it's true time. We're going to play the most likely game. Here's a break. We're back. The Celtics are reportedly in on Kevin Durant. Woj reported this, and then Shams reported this, and then Captain Windhorse went out there and said, you know that thing Woj said? He said, it's fucking weeks old, so don't even pay attention to us. I don't care what Adrian says. He goes, it's
Windhorse
stale.
is so much more interesting than Woj these days because he will give you the correct interpretation of every rumor as opposed to just throwing stuff out.
Ever since the deal zone, Wendy's just like, I don't. Adrian's like the big deal, but I don't give a fuck. Like that's old. Whatever he gives you, like.
But it honestly is true. Like, I'm dead serious. Like, what Woj tells you is what is being put out by the team, and when something is final. And what Windhorse tells you is what everyone's understanding around the league is of a situation.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
His guess at the probability something happens, and like he's been pretty reliable for a while now.
He knows what he's doing. Now, why would they do that? Essentially, Boston is in, or was in on Durant and has offered Jaylen Brown for Kevin Durant. That it seems like a big deal, if only for the simple fact that now Jaylen Brown knows that he's been offered in a trade after the playoffs that he had and the finals that he had when Tatum was terrible in the finals. What Shams said is that Boston offered Brown, Derek White, and a first, and the Celtics won, or the Nets won, Brown and Marcus Smart and picks. And Celtics have been yet to say yes to that. What do you guys think of this? What would you do if you were Boston? Would you do that? I would. If I'm Boston, I would certainly do the thing where I trade Brown for Durant. I don't. People talk about like they're just going to be a contender forever. Like I don't think that's true. I think things change pretty quickly in the NBA. Like I think that first of all, if Kevin Durant wants to play there, I have no idea if he wants to play there. If he doesn't, then I think you're kind of fucked. But if he wants to play there, and you can just have like two top 10 guys like Durant and Tatum, I think you kind of do it and lean on the rest of your depth. It would be hard to trade Smart because he's so valuable, and then otherwise you're depending on a lot of like old and injury-prone guys. But I would try to find a way to do it if you can do like Brown and White and a bunch of picks. But yeah, that's how I would lean. Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I will say, I think I'm a lot lower on Jaylen Brown than most. And I think Brown is he's a top 25 player, but I think a lot of people view him a lot more highly than that. And to me, I see Jaylen Brown and I see, very good scorer and not very good at anything else. And scoring is the most important thing in basketball. Like I said, I still think he's a top 25 player, which is really, really good. But I think he's like a fine defender. I think he's extremely, extremely turnover prone. Not a particularly good rebounder, pass, or anything like that. Like he's fine. And I don't mean this as a knock on him, but I just mean it to set up my case that I think this is such a slam dunk move for the Celtics. And I know that Marcus Smart has been, such a constant for them and a leader for them. And, absolutely is one of the best defenders in the league. But, Brogdon and White are good defenders. You can, even if, it's not if, like, if you, Brogdon is worse than Smart. But if he's going to take his minutes, he's still a good player getting those minutes instead of Smart in the rotation. And I think the leap from Brown to KD is enormous. Like KD is better at like everything. Like Brown might be a little bit better Brown is better at on-ball defense, but KD is better at like everything else. And really Brown's thing is that he's a really good scorer. And KD is a way better scorer. He's way better at the thing that Brown, makes his money on. So I don't think anyone needs to make the case for KD. I really don't care about age. The Celtics are winning now. And if I were them, I would do it. And I get, where the market's at. It doesn't seem like it's a rush to get him. Like I would, of course, try to keep Smart. But if you have to, I would do it. If it's Brown and like the Brown thing is not even a question to me. It's like KD is just so much better than he is. KD's still a top 5 player in the league, probably. So I think to me, and I understand it's not as simple as like, oh, this is a workable deal for us, so let's take it. It's like they're going to try to keep as much as they can. But for me, it's a no-brainer for the Celtics to do it. I don't think they're going to. I think they like Brown a lot more than I like Brown.
Right.
I think that as much, I really do like Smart, but I think they like Smart more than I like Smart too. And we've seen this from them a lot. Like this core of Tatum and Brown, they've had a lot of opportunities to move Jaylen Brown for probably someone who fits better than Tatum, fits better with Tatum, and probably someone who's a lot better than Brown. And they've been really hesitant to do it for a long time. And I don't think that that's going to change this offseason. I know it's Brad Stevens there now. And, well, he was always there, but he's, in charge of the front office now. And, there's not, the joke was always about how Danny Ainge was so close to making a deal. And that hasn't been the joke about Brad Stevens, but I just get the feeling that it's not really happening. And I think if this were as simple as of a matter as, if the Celtics wanted to do it, they would do it. And like the Celtics will probably find a deal they like and a deal will get done. Like there's because I hear that offer and I think, well, the Celtics can't have to come down that much to be happy from where they are. But if that were the case, we would hear that. Like if the Celtics only wanted to, the Celtics were pretty close to happy with that Nets ask. We would have been like, someone would have said that, like Woj would have said it, Shams would have said it, or Windhorst would have said it, and we haven't heard it. And I can't imagine the Nets taking any less than Brown, Smart, and picks for Durant. So I mean, if I were the Celtics, I would do it, and I think that would make the Celtics title favorites. But I just get the feeling that they're not going to.
Emily, what do you think?
If I were the Celtics, I would give the Nets what they want. I mean, it's Kevin Durant. Like, I feel like you don't need to make much more of an argument than that. Of course, then there's me on the other hand being like, well, I'm not giving Tyrese Maxey up for Kevin Durant. Are you fucking crazy? But that's a different story. But yeah, looking at it from like an objective perspective, which I guess I would be looking at the Celtics, I would, do pretty much anything to get Kevin Durant. That being said, I don't want them to do it. I don't want Kevin Durant on the Celtics, so they can feel free to keep, going back and forth and not agreeing so that it doesn't happen. I mean, yeah, we play the Nets a bunch, but just like the Celtics would be shitty. That would suck. So, yeah, I don't really think a deal will get done though. I just don't see. I feel like it's really hard for like, when is the last time that like a player that good got traded and like what was the price?
Never, probably.
Yeah. So it's like,
do you think he's gonna play for the Nets?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think he has it in him to not play.
I think he really
likes basketball.
I was gonna say, like, he's like I don't want to, like, he was like a basketball guy. Like, he just like loves, he's a hooper, like, I don't know what to tell you.
No, I agree with you. I think
no, but I guess what I don't mean that he holds out of games. I mean that somebody ponies up enough that like his request is legit.
It's a lot.
And they find a way to make it
who
happen.
can really meet that ask? Like they want like 5 picks and a current all-star caliber player. I mean, even I wouldn't consider, like, I think the closest you can probably get is a Pelicans package, and I don't think Brandon Ingram is currently an all-star caliber player.
And would he even play in New Orleans?
Well, I'm not sure. I think that he would have to. I don't think he can demand a trade again.
But if he wouldn't be happy there, they're not trading the mother.
But I think he would try, and if they believe in Zion enough and the rest of the team, but which I'm not even sure they should. But I mean, I would probably go after Kevin Durant if I were anyone. But like, how many teams can really, ask, like, give the Nets what they want, like picks going forward, and also, someone to be relevant now. Like, they still have Kyrie. If they trade him, they'll probably get someone okay. They still have Simmons if Kyrie and Simmons ever play.
And what do you think of that? Yeah.
I mean, in their minds, like, they're trying to win now.
Yeah.
And I don't know how anyone could possibly meet that ask. I mean, the Suns have been the favorites, but the Suns can't meet that ask because the Suns aren't going to give Booker, and they can't trade. They can't trade Ayton until January, and Ayton has a veto. And
Paul is not getting traded.
I don't think the Nets necessarily want Ayton.
Well, they can't trade him for 6 months.
No, but even if you wait 6 months, I don't think the Nets will want him necessarily.
Yeah.
And
it's not easy.
I don't think his trade value is that high, right? Like, Bridges and picks, I don't think is doing it as much as I like Bridges. So it's an impossible thing to do because he's too good to be traded.
We'll see. We bring in Drew Peltzman, of course, to play the most likely game here. Take it away.
Question 1. Which Sixer would you most likely trust to land a plane in an emergency?
Ooh.
We'll go Dan, Steve, Emily.
All right. Which Sixer would I trust to land a plane in an emergency? So I understand the question, but how I heard it in my own head was which Sixer would look the best in a pilot's outfit. So
if that's the angle you want to take, by all means.
That is, to me, the only criteria for landing a plane. I don't actually know how landing a plane works. I just think you have to look good. And you know who would look good in a pilot's outfit is Georges Niang. He just would. He's got a good pilot look to him. I don't have a better case than that, but I just think he would look very handsome in a nice pilot's hat and the little suit thing they wear. And he just seems like a pretty competent guy, so I would hand it over to him and let him land the plane.
Okay, so it's me against Emily on this one. Let's see. I'm gonna have to go with Tobias. I'm gonna use the book angle on this one.
Early.
Yeah, using the book angle. Reads constantly, probably too much. Studies all the time, reads too much, very smart guy, a very thoughtful guy, would stay calm under pressure because he's, not a high pressure moment on a basketball court. Hopefully he would fare better in the cockpit. So I'll go with Tobias.
Okay, I'm going to go with Matisse Thybulle.
Sure.
There was a few years ago a very funny video in which Matisse had a food order on the plane and got it all wrong. Just like only one chicken biscuit, not enough food for everyone. And my theory is that he got the order wrong because he is so enthralled with aviation that he was focused on the flight and getting to, be on the plane, maybe talk to the pilot, that he couldn't focus on getting the order right. So I think that he knows a good bit about aviation, and I'm going to go Matisse Thybulle.
All right. I'm going to give it to Emily because that was just a solid comparison, a throwback to a very funny video, which I remembered right away. So that's an easy one. All right. Next question. Which Sixer is most likely to defeat Doc in a 18-hole round of golf? We'll go Emily, Dan, Steve.
Okay. Well, I feel like I need to get this right. My husband is an avid golfer, but I don't feel confident in my abilities for right now. For this one, I am going to say Tobias Harris. I just think that he is a very polished gentleman. He wears a lot of matching outfit sets, a lot of collared shirts, and those are all things that you find on a golf course. And I think that he would dabble in some golf. I think he is probably maybe a little tall to be a golfer, but has like the general golfing body type. So I'm going to go Tobias Harris.
All right. So when you think of, NBA golfers, who do you think of? You think of Steph Curry, right? Steph Curry, very famous, plays in the pro-ams and stuff. He's supposedly a scratch golfer. He has that mini golf show. It's like half mini golf, half wipeout. And everyone knows that Steph Curry is a really good golfer. And who more than anyone on the Sixers wants to beat Steph Curry finally? It's James Harden. And so James Harden, is he going to be able to beat him in basketball? Maybe, but he can't put all his eggs in one basket. So yeah, he's working on basketball, but he's also been working on golf. And yeah, he's beating Doc easily right now because he has his sights set higher than Doc. He wants to beat Steph out there because he has to beat Steph at something. I mean, it's all anyone talks about, right? Like, it's like, they're both great players, with Steph as the winner, and Harden's like, no, like I'm going to be the winner in golf. And he's been putting the work in.
I'm going to go with someone who would desperately want to buddy up to Doc, somebody who wants more minutes, somebody who wants to spend some quality time with Doc, somebody like Isaiah Joe. Isaiah Joe, desperate for more minutes. He might just get thrown into a trade, but he wants to endear himself to Doc, so he enrolled himself in private lessons over the summer. Turns out he got really good at it. He has a knack for it. He's an athletic guy. He beats Doc. It backfires on him. He gets cut. But this is I think what happens. It's Isaiah Joe.
Yeah, well, at first when Dan started speaking, I thought he thought Steph Curry was on the Sixers, and I was like, did you misunderstand? But no, this is a tough one between Isaiah Joe and James Harden, but I think I'm gonna go Isaiah Joe just because when I made the question, I in my head I was thinking who needs to posture up to Doc, and I like his reasoning behind that. You could have chose anyone from Paul Reed to even Maxey. I probably would have considered it, but I get you guys might want to save him. Mm-hmm. Okay. Number 3. Which Sixer is most likely to move to Hawaii after retiring? And the order is Steve, Emily, and Dan.
Most likely to move to Hawaii. Hawaii is a good time, and all I can say is that an incoming Sixer, what we know is that one of our incoming Sixers likes to, all I'll say is that we know that he likes to have a good time. And I think we know what I mean by that. Danuel House was in the bubble and he had a bit of a good time. A bit of a too good of a time, as he had a house visit, whatever you want to call it. So I think that he would retire after making however much money he made to Hawaii, and he has a burgeoning music career. If you look at his Instagram, I'm going to say Dan House would retire to Hawaii to live lavishly.
All right.
Am I up?
No, it's Emily.
Okay.
Okay. I am going to go with Joel Embiid. One, he will have the money. Hawaii is an infamously expensive place to live. So we know he will have the money. Also, his fiance / wife is Brazilian, I believe, and will probably thrive in a warmer, more tropical climate, similar to South America. And I think Hawaii would give their family that. We know that Joel likes, well, maybe he does. He actually doesn't really like water slides, but maybe, being in Hawaii, all of the resorts, he could get, practice going down water slides. It would give him a lot of things to do in his post basketball career days. And I think that he would enjoy it there. So I'm going to go Joel Embiid.
All right, I'm gonna wrap it up here with my pick, and that is PJ Tucker. So I think that we all agree Hawaii would be a lovely place to retire, and I think it's more a matter of who is willing to go all the way out there. Like, I think, for some people, they either have shown that they don't really want to go too far from home. We see a lot of NBA, but I mean, Kawhi Leonard, right? Like, really wanted to go to Los Angeles, left the champion Raptors. And I think even other players, like, right, Embiid has come a long way from home, but I kind of think, obviously Philly's like a second home for him, and he's really, settled down here, and I think he's going to want to stay here. And when you look at PJ Tucker, I mean, he's played overseas. And then he comes to, I guess let's go chronologically. He played in Toronto, out of the US. But then he played in Israel, he played in Ukraine, he played in Greece, he played in Italy, he played in Germany, he played in Phoenix, he played in Toronto again, then he went to Houston, then he went to Milwaukee, then he went to Miami, and now he's in Philadelphia. He is not afraid to travel for, where he wants to be for a basketball reason. And he really hasn't settled down anywhere in a while. And I think when it's all wrapped up for his career at the age of 40, when his Sixers contract, finishes up, he'll probably look around and say, what's the best place for me? Because he doesn't have anywhere he needs to go back to necessarily. He's been everywhere. And he also seems to like trying new places. I mean, he's been all around the US, he's been all around the world. He likes trying new places. He hasn't been to Hawaii yet. Hawaii is supposed to be beautiful. I think he heads over there.
It's a very thought out response, and I enjoyed most of it. So Dan, it goes to you.
Thank you.
That was a lot of research.
Most of it.
Yeah,
I had a lot of time for research. I went third. It better be good.
Yeah, you came with your homework. So, all right, everyone has 1 point. I didn't prepare a what's it called? Overtime question.
Oh,
yeah,
you make it up on
tiebreaker.
the fly.
Yeah, so I figured we could all just collectively make one up as a team. UFC 277 was last night, Saturday night. Who is the Sixer most likely to just end up in a boxing match or MMA match like Logan Paul or Jake Paul did, where they're the celebrity or something, or ex-player like Nate Robinson? Which Sixer is most likely to find themselves in that position? It'll be Emily, Steve, Dan.
Okay. I am going to go with Paul Reed. As we know, he's not super active on social media, but in the past, he's had some funny tweets, not the controversial ones, like the ones from when he was 14, when he was that were more amusing. I just think that out of everyone on the team, he would find himself there, whether by accident or on purpose is unsure. But I think he's a guy that follows through on his commitments. And if he gets caught up in some type of boxing situation, I think he would take it on. So I'll go Paul Reed.
I've got to go PJ Tucker here. I think that he's the fightiest Sixer. I think that he's the one to get into it most, in terms of most, nose to nose almost fights or legit fights this year. He's got to be right up at the top, and he's the guy, I think, for sure.
So when I look at who's going to win a boxing match, and I understand the question wasn't who would be the best boxer on the Sixers, but I think they're not just going to take someone who's going to get their face punched in. They want someone who's going to be successful. I think everyone on the Sixers is smart enough to know whether this is something they would be successful at, because you're putting yourself in a dangerous situation. You have to be able to protect yourself. And I think the guy who would do the best here and who would therefore put themselves out there to do it would be Shake Milton. I think Shake Milton, first of all, is the perfect level of celebrity to do it, where it's like, he wasn't really a famous NBA player, but he has some really good highlights. He had that 39-point game against the Clippers. Like, they could show that in the intro, like, look what he did this one time. Like, look what he did in this game. But in terms of as a boxer, Shake is 6'5" with a 7-foot wingspan or 7'1" wingspan or something, like huge plus wingspan, right? That'll be super advantageous in the ring. Is it a ring, an octagon? I don't know. What sports are we talking about? MMA?
Either
whatever one of those sports where you hit each other. I don't really watch them that much, but he can keep his distance. He can reach further than his opponent. That should be advantageous for him in the fight. So I think they're going to want him, and he's going to be like, yeah, I could do it, because no one's going to be able to hit me. I'll just stand far away. I'll hit them. They can't even hit me.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is the toughest decision I've had to make yet. All of these are great choices. When I thought of the question, I thought of Paul Reed. And then when Steve started explaining, I was like, oh, it could be PJ Tucker. He's the fightiest. Makes sense. And then Shake has the best name for the nickname to go along with it. So this one's tough. Oh man, this is tough. This is a tough one. I think I'm gonna go PJ Tucker.
Oh,
fightiest.
That's tough.
He is the fightiest. Joel specifically asked for him because he's the fightiest and toughest. So, like, by name, it makes sense. He gets it. Next one, and the last question. Which Sixer is most likely to be the first to wear an Eagles jersey pregame this season? So the Eagles just started training camp, and which Sixer is going to, I guess, pander a little bit to the fans? It's going to be Dan, Emily, Steve.
Yeah, so I think the pandering question isn't about who needs to. I think it doesn't tend to be who needs to panders the most. I think that some guys just pander and some guys just don't. And no one panders more than Joel Embiid. And we've seen it. I mean, Joel Embiid isn't even an Eagles fan. He's a Packers fan. Yet when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, he was out there celebrating and thrilled for the city. And, when we talk about, pregame shows, it is Joel having, the WWE guys out there before the game to, do his little whatever. I don't know. I don't follow these sports, but that was another game I was at where the Sixers lost in the playoffs to the Hawks. So that was fun. But he definitely makes, a show of these things. He enjoys, that kind of pandering. He's a big panderer. And I don't think the question isn't even like, who's the Eagles fan? It's just like, who is going to try to get the crowd into it in that way? And I really think it's Joel. Like, I just can't see any other guy doing it. I also think no one else, like, if the case is to be made that someone else has to pander, I don't even think someone else could get away with it. Like, I think if it were almost anyone else, like if it were a fringe roster player, it would come across as, them not really being focused on the game. It would come across as them, having their head elsewhere before the game. And I think for Joel, it would be more of, him trying to get the fans into it. He has the leeway to do it. He has, shown that he will go out of his way. Like I said, not an Eagles fan, don't think it even matters. Like, he's just kind of going to do, if the Eagles have a big game, like he's gonna show up in an Eagles jersey and try to tie that in. He's just that kind of guy.
All right, Em.
Okay. I am gonna go, and this may be the easy way out. I don't know. But I'm going to go Charlie Brown Jr. The man is from Philadelphia. The man definitely has Eagles jerseys in his closet. He grew up here. I bet you he's an Eagles fan. If he's not an Eagles fan, he knows how much the city loves the Eagles. He's a guy that it wouldn't hurt to get the city on his side as like a fringe player, like an a la Mike Scott wearing Flyers jerseys situation to make, himself more of a fan favorite. Not everyone may know that Charlie Brown Jr. is from Philadelphia, which would work even more in his favor. So I'm going to go Charlie Brown Jr.
I do want to acknowledge the dirty tactic Dan played, where he made his selection and then tried to harpoon Emily and my selection by deriding them before we could even give them. He went, here's my answer, and then here's why their answers are fucking stupid before they even give them. And I just think I think you should disqualify him.
That's absolutely correct.
This is just how I feel. I think Dan should be disqualified. All right. I think that the person to wear the Eagles jersey is the person who would be riding the wave of Philadelphia fan adoration, and that's Tyrese Maxey. I think that much like Mike Scott before him, this is, and hopefully he wouldn't be beating up fans in the parking lot at the, as the punctuation mark to this summer of adulation. But people are just so in love with him that I think on a Monday night where the Eagles have a Monday night football game or something like that, if the Sixers are playing a bit earlier, he could show up in like a Jalen Hurts jersey and just make fans love him even more, because fans are so in his corner that he could just show up in a jersey. Because I don't know of a particular NFL allegiance that he has, and so people wouldn't think that it's like, no, but we all know you're blank, you're this sort of fan. So I think that he could continue riding his wave. And just to wrap this up, I would say that it's really basically down to me and Emily, because Dan has been disqualified in this round because of his dirty tactic.
You gotta play the game to win. I don't know what to tell you.
Hey, no disrespect to Dan and his tactics, but I wasn't gonna pick your answer anyways.
Yeah, I think
so.
Yeah,
I'm going with Emily.
It's the right choice. I understand.
That was good.
It was a good pull. Honestly, we've been saying the same names over and over. It was nice to hear a Charlie Brown Jr. pop up. So, in fact, we are going to a tiebreaker between Emily and Steve. Dan, would you like to be an honorary question haver in order to break this tie, since you are disqualified?
I could try to make something up real quick. Let me think. All right. Oh, I got one. All right.
That was quick.
I thought of one because all right. So
no editing for me.
I'm moving soon. All right. So I'm moving. I was in Spring Garden. I'm kind of in between leases. So I'm at my parents' house right now, and I'm moving down like a little bit near South Street, like right off of Fitzwater. And moving is tough. There's a lot of it's either a lot of work and time or a lot of money to pay for movers. So, it helps if you have a buddy. So which Sixer is most likely to be there and help another Sixer move, at their ask? If they, reach out to the team, someone reaches out to the team group chat, says, I'm moving, who could give me a hand? Who's most likely to text back and say, all right, I will help you move. I'll be the one to come and I'll give you a hand.
What's the order?
Drew, come on.
All right, let's go. All right, who Steve, you have not won a complete match yet, so I'll give you the floor because you're the underdog.
Okay. I am going to say the six are most likely to volunteer themselves to help is Miles Powell. Because really, that guy needs people to like him because he's not good enough to play on the team. And he just needs to make use of himself in every other possible way. Anybody need water? Who needs water? Anybody? I'm going to Wawa. Who wants a shorty? Anybody who wants anything? I'm going to MJ's. Anybody want lemon ricotta pancakes? He just has to do everything possible to endear himself to his teammates so that on cut day, when they're like, what about Champagne guy? What's his last name? Or what about Miles? You know what? Miles helped me move a sectional into Old City. I like him. Can we keep Miles around? Miles, I think, would be the guy to volunteer himself.
I'm gonna go with Furkan Korkmaz. I think we've seen in the past that he becomes friends with his teammates. He was good friends with Ben. He lost him. He's friends with Matisse. I just think that he, as a guy that
the worst people.
I mean, he didn't ask. Does he move good people, Dan? He didn't ask that. That was not the question. Actually, you asked the question. That's not the question. So I think, Furkan is a guy that he's not from here. The people that he knows here are his teammates. Most of his family, I assume, is still in Turkey. So he's, building his family here. And when your family needs help, you turn up for them. You show up, you help. And I think that, Furkan has said, his teammates are like his family and he's going to be willing to help the move. So I'm going to go Furkan.
I like how you guys both kind of went the intern route. It plays a heavy heart for me. I think I'm going to go with Steve with Miles Powell. I think in terms of actually moving furniture and going about doing that, I think I could see Miles Powell being more like, oh, I can help you out. I can help you out. Even if he can't even carry it, he will try.
Yeah.
Furkan, I mean, I feel like he would help until a point where he'd be like, I did it 4 times in a row. I don't feel like doing it one more time. Why are you still moving? Yeah. All right. Miles Powell wins. Stevie win. Congrats.
Great job.
1-1-1.
Yeah. Everyone is 1-1. Even battle going forward.
All right. We did it. All right. Follow us, Third and Girl, Gastro Blues Pod, Steve J. Lippman, DA Peltz 13.
Can I say one more thing quick?
Please do.
I just want to say, as a basketball podcast, I feel like we should address the fact that Bill Russell died today. So I just want to say that NBA one of the greats.
Yes.
And so our hearts and everyone goes out to his family and all the people, as much as I already said, I hate the Celtics fans, we support them in this. So RIP to Bill Russell.
Legitimate icon. So extremely sad.
Back to your sign off.
on a different note, as a Philadelphia podcast, the fire at Jim's and 4th, my personal favorite cheesesteak.
Mine too.
In the city, my absolute favorite. Been going there, for as long as I can remember. Thinking of them, they put out something about how they will rebuild, but their employees need help. So there's a fundraiser on there. So seek that out.
Yeah, I retweeted it from my Twitter.
Same. So go ahead and give to that if you can. So yeah, that's all. Follow us, the Gastro Blues Pod, a Sixers podcast on YouTube. Be back next week. We love you. And that's it. Goodbye.